And lawmakers in the House this morning preparing for Wednesday's highly anticipated hearing when former special counsel Robert Mueller answers questions before the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Democrats say they will focus their questioning on possible obstruction of justice by the president, while Republicans plan to grill Mueller on the origins of his investigation and misconduct by the investigators during the 2016 election. My first guest this morning will be the second lawmaker to question Mueller on Wednesday. Joining me right now exclusively this morning is Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. He is the ranking Republican on the House Judiciary Committee. And Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be with you this morning, Maria.
So what are you expecting from the Mueller testimony on Wednesday?
Well, what we're expecting is another round of what we already know. I've told some people before, it's like going back and finding a book on the shelf that looks new, and then all of a sudden you begin to read it and you find out, wait, I've already read this before. And I think that's what the American people are going to find. But really what's happening here is it's the Democrats' time to make the case that they've not been wasting our time and millions of dollars in our committee hearings and clown and farce hearings going on where they're just harassing the president, going after things that we've already known, and just trying to make press release headlines instead of legislating and trying to govern our country. This is really what this sums up for them this week.
So the Democrats want to have the narrative of obstruction of justice. What else are the Democrats trying to get out of Robert Mueller, and what's the strategy on the Republican side?
Well, I think the Democrats, what they're trying to do is revive this and make something of it that after being 3 months out in the public, everybody that is wanting to know about the Mueller report has looked into the Mueller report. We see that people are beginning to tire of this. They also see that any thought of impeachment is waning, and they know that because the report said that there was no collusion definitively and there was no charged obstruction. Remember what was just interesting you just said there, that the Democrats wanted to focus on obstruction. The whole investigation started from the discussion of Russian interference in our 2016 election. It's almost like they forgot about that completely. But let me tell you, the Republicans have not forgot about where this investigation started, and there's going to be a lot of questions for what he did say, what he didn't say, and how this thing started. And people are going to find out, hopefully, some answers this week on that.
And, of course, we've been, covering this for 2.5 years, and you and your colleagues have been exposing the truth in terms of what was the origin of the Russia investigation. Are you going to be asking specifically if he looked at the origin of that investigation, why they started to investigate Donald Trump in the first place?
I think that's going to be part of our complete strategy. Remember, what we're doing here is we're wanting to show this for what it is, and that is a final episode of the Mueller report and a final episode to hopefully put this behind so that the president, who has been leading on so many fronts with the economy and everything that we have seen so far, is actually can get to governing. But what we're going to also have is a comprehensive decision to say, are you going to say anything new? Are you going to stick to your report? Do you find that report truthful? Laying that foundation, and then throughout our questioners, and we've got some great guys on our side and gals that are going to ask some really pointed questions to make sure that the American people understand this is not a vacuum that the Democrats have completely to say the president was doing something wrong. We're going to also go back to that corrupt cabal and others, I think, as you look at it in general, that need to be part of this picture. Remember, the Mueller report is a one-sided report that has not been questioned from the other side. This is our chance to do that.
So lay out how it goes tomorrow. Obviously, Jerry Nadler is the chairman of the committee. He'll speak first.
Yes, there'll be opening statements from Mr. Nadler, the chairman, and myself, and I'm going to lay out, basically what we're looking at. And then Mr. Mueller will have a chance to have an opening statement as well. And then it'll start our lines of questioning with Mr. Nadler, then myself, and we'll go down the line from there.
And of course, this is happening Wednesday, first to the Judiciary and then the Intel Committee. Let me ask you about the issue of collusion. When did he actually know that there was no collusion? He took over after Jim Comey was fired. What was it, April of 2017? And he ended after the midterm elections just a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, rather.
Yeah, I think he was appointed actually, I think it was in May that year, it was when he was actually appointed after Comey was let go. What we have seen, and looking back at the reports, looking back at their timeline of investigations, I think they were looking into this whole issue of Russian interference for most of the time. I think what I want to focus on is how did we get there to start with? What evidence were they using? I mean, these are questions, Maria, that you and I have actually talked about before. How did the corrupt cabal of Strzok, Page, McCabe, these folks who we know had a problem coming through the mid-year investigation of Clinton, who then all of a sudden began to appear themselves in the Russia investigation in July of 2016, and then actually Strzok, we know, had to be removed from the Mueller team because of what him and Page were doing. So these are the kind of questions that need to lay a framework for the entire investigation as it goes forward.
Sure, and you have been continuing your investigation, investigating the investigators, and there are 3 major investigations happening right now. John Dorn forum, obviously looking at the same thing, the Attorney General, Bill Barr, in the Senate, Lindsey Graham. You are looking for Nellie Ohr's research, the wife of Bruce Ohr. Tell me what you're looking for, Congressman.
Well, remember, Nellie Ohr, part of the Fusion GPS team, looking at that opposition research, a lot of which would, see were shared with the FBI, but also with the Fusion GPS, and that's the infamous dossier. When she came before the committee last year, before the Democrats took over, she gave indication that she was willing to share that information. Well, we're now going into, almost 9 months since then, and she's not shared, and her attorneys have been very vague about sharing this information. What she did was not only investigate the president, she looked at his family and Melania, the First Lady. These are just saying, there's been too much secrecy among this little corrupt cabal. They've had their time of being in the background. It's time for their information to come out and for the American people to realize that there was a problem at the FBI. There was a problem that we see going forward, that it's going to go forward not only in the Durham investigations, but also the Horowitz investigations into FISA abuse, which we expect that report later this fall as well.
So you're saying she investigated the entire family when Donald Trump was just a candidate. Did this happen at the end of 15?
No, I think it was in her time with Fusion GPS, so it would have been in that 2016 time frame. I know she left in September, I believe it was, of 2016. From there. So this is in that time frame of the election cycle. This was when all this was going forward. We had the Democratic Party that was looking for things on the president, now president, and then candidate. These are just ideas that we've got to lay this groundwork to let this say this is not Mueller in a capsule by himself. There's things that we have to look for, and there are things that people just need to understand the entire story. It's almost like if you just took the Mueller report by itself, then you're not understanding also what underpinned the actual start of this. And I think there's both sides that will be asking questions, but this is a chance. I think I can't go back to this enough. Yeah. This is the time that the Democrats have got to show on their end how much time they have been wasting of our committee and how we've not been getting things done because they simply don't like this president who was elected by the people in 2016, and they're just trying to derail it for 2020.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. I want to really take a zeroing in on what has gotten done this first 7 months of the year.